Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. I'm Johnny Blaine, standing in for Jake Robson. Joining me, standing in for Jake Sanders, is Ollie Spiro.
Good evening and happy birthday to Jake Sanders.
He actually said in the group that his birthday we lost 6-1 to Chelsea, was it?
Yeah. Oh, what was it? What, the great?
Did he say 6-1 to Chelsea? He certainly lost 2-1 to Arsenal. When
I think he said a Newcastle game.
6-1 FA Cup against Newcastle in '99.
Yeah.
Was it 7?
Oh, no.
I said to him last night, just cancel your birthday and do the right thing, but he was too selfish.
Shame he wasn't born on like
Sorry, and hello, Gary Diamond.
Yeah. And Liverpool were in my wedding day as well.
I was going to come to that.
Oh, were you? Sorry.
Didn't we get smashed by Liverpool? Was that the season that AVB got sacked?
Do you know, I couldn't tell you. I just remember that in my wedding ceremony, I'm sure we've told this story before.
Do it again.
And I'm getting married and my dad is stood there in my wedding ceremony. I can see him out the corner of my eye. I can just see him going, 1-0, no good. 2-0, oh. He's getting so upset. He's getting frustrated and angry. I'm like, I'm trying to get married here. Just leave me alone for a minute.
Hold on. What game was it?
It was 4-1 to Liverpool.
Away.
Was it away? It might have been.
Yeah, no, it was at
been
Anfield.
Anyway, it was a bad
I'm mixing
one.
it up because another friend of ours, Robert, had his wedding. I think it was a game that AVB got sacked, and that was at home.
That was a 5-0.
5-0.
Brendan Rodgers. It was their Brendan Rodgers team. So they were, and I think we're putting and talk about it. So like actually a bit of a difference between today and that game 5-0 where AVB was sacked literally that evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 5. They were. Did they have like Sterling, Suarez, and who else were they had up front? They were polished then.
But anyway, we got to like 3, and Robert turns around, and I'm just like.
No
people are thinking, is he telling him don't get married? I'm like, no, don't worry.
Yeah, mate, don't do it.
Spurs are 3 down. Oh no, it's 4. So we've had some.
So Liverpool ruined some days.
We're going to come to all of that in a second. Ross Hughes has pointed out here, Ollie, nice hair, dude. Ollie,
me,
yeah,
I know. Yeah, the haircut is it's due for tomorrow.
Have you actually had a haircut?
No,
it's due tomorrow.
No, it just keeps on growing. So, as I said, it was the it's trying to go for Russell Martin.
Fabulously thick.
I know, but yeah, I'm not going bald anytime soon. Like,
even watching Spurs.
I'm not going grey or bald.
You're going a little bit grey,
despite Spurs.
Do you want to lend me some?
Yeah. But thank you, Ross, for noticing.
Ryan, have a good Christmas, chaps. Is that me signing off already?
Yeah, see you, Ryan. Off you go. Don't blame
you, mate.
This is the highlight.
We're going to come to a few more of the comments. You know what? I'm going to do a couple of comments now because Padani started with one of our members. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. I feel strangely positive about that result. And then Ronnie replies, you can't be well. So,
but follow that up, Padani, because we're going to come on to the game. So follow up with where the strange positivity comes from, because I'm kind of weirdly, funnily just trying to grasp and see where you might be coming from, but I'm interested where you're coming from.
We scored 3 goals, maybe. That's
No. I've got my own views on the game, but I'm interested to see where Padani is strangely positive about the game. So follow up on that.
Yeah, Lloyd Becker's made a point. Lloyd won our book last week. Real friend of the show.
Well done, Lloyd.
I'm going to come to his point when we talk about Liverpool. I do want to start with, there wasn't much in the way of club news. I'm fairly sure that none of the other teams played this week. Obviously, they lost to Ajax. They had 21s in that Premier League Cup recently. But there was a little bit of club news in that I think a member of the Tottenham Hotspur, the
THST,
what was the guy that stepped down from the Supporters Trust, and there's been a lot of movement away from the club, from some of the fan groups. So there's this sort of groundswell of movement towards Daniel Levy and the owners and the board. It's a discussion we've not had that often on this pod, but we are going to have that discussion this evening. And I'm going to start with you, Ollie, because obviously there was the protest outside the ground today. Like I said, it's been a little bit of a movement in the last month or so. Talk to me about all the stuff going on around it off the pitch.
Well, first of all, today I got there a little bit later than I had wanted to. So I didn't see much of a protest and I'm in South Stand, so would have been that way. So I didn't see, lots of people there. I'm going to clarify that I am not a yellow and purple. I have no hatred towards the owners. I've gone on a journey with the owners. and I don't agree with a lot of the methods that are taken with a lot of the Levy out, sort of Levy/Enoch out brigade. Look, to clarify one thing, I think we all know that it's the hardest thing to change. You know, we know how hard it is for us to sell a under 14 youth goalkeeper because there'll be clauses in the contract that we'll be negotiating. Imagine them selling a multi-billion pound asset. It's beyond our comprehension about sort of the complication of that deal, how pernickety they'll be. And, you know, this is his, essentially his life work. And I think that's to his credit, but also it's also one of his biggest weaknesses. I think if you look in the Premier League, all the other owners, the football clubs that they own are actually one part of their ownership, where to Levy, this is genuinely, yes, he has a property portfolio. Yes, Enoch do have some other interests, but this is the crown jewels. And he's been in this position for 24 years, and it will make him an extraordinarily rich man. And I think the journey that I'm talking about is, you know, they took over in the early 2000s, but then they really bought the shares, I think around 2003, 2004, and they got up to the 85-ish% and have slowly sort of bought more from there. But we'll call it from 2004 onwards. And I think it starts with the Santini sort of time. And actually, you're going to look from 2004 through to 2019. And I do think you have obvious targets both on and off the pitch. Yes, there were bumps in the road. Yes, I'm going to get some frothy mouth people saying, "Oh, what about the Saha and Nelson, transfer window? The January transfer window." Yes,
there were as you said, there were bumps in the road. Yeah,
there were bumps in the road. They are human beings. They are not. We're not. Perfection is impossible. And I do believe that between 2004 and 2019, the trajectory both on and off the pitch was demonstrable, both in terms of reaching a Champions League final and challenging for the league, which for us, guys who were our first season tickets were in the early 90s, was just, we were celebrating getting into the fair play draw.
Yeah.
So we've been consistently qualifying for the European club. And obviously there was the pot of gold for the asset-based business, which was building the stadium. Mm. So we had these two very obvious goals of, we need Champions League football, we need to build up the stadium, and we need to, and it all, actually, the club were all pulling in one direction. Yes, there are people who are like, "Oh, I wish we stayed at the old stadium, blah, blah, blah." No, it doesn't work like that, because yes, we could have stayed at the old stadium, but without obvious owner-based owner-based sort of capital going into the business, we wouldn't be able to expand on the pitch. It's not like they got £1 billion loan from the bank to just buy players. That's not what happened. They have got a long-term securitized debt set against a real asset.
So what's happened since 2019?
Well, this is the problem. I think we haven't got an identity anymore. And I think that the football club, I think the cynics amongst us have sat here and said, look, I get all the multi-revenue streams. It's fantastic. But is that really going into the football club? And how are you actually really viewing the football operation? Are you really putting the money in that our rivals would be? Now, I'm talking about, the example I've used on our group. Say you look at pharmaceutical businesses. Yes, they make billions of profit, fine. But R&D to them is huge because they want to find a cure for cancer or whatever it is to get the next patent. So they pump loads of money back in. Look at football is a really odd industry. It's like nothing else. But football operation demands huge outlays to these professionals who, you can say, look at the Ndombele example. You've got £60 million of transfer outlay, and it works out to be, call it another 50 odd million of wages. And you say, hey, Mr. Levy, we're going to spend £60 million here, and these are his wages over 5 years. And he's going to say, well, what's my worst case scenario? Well, zero. Yeah. It's going to be down to zero into account. And that has scarred him. It's hugely scarred him.
But people are going to say that we have spent a lot of money on, you said to me in the past, I've said to you, look at our spending, 250 million in this summer, 100 million in that January, 200 million in that summer. But you will then say to me, it's wages are the problem.
Well, for
all of this, you've set it up really nicely. and I think you've given a good backstory to all of it. But you have a particular view right now of where things are at, which I think is something that is maybe reflected with a lot of the noise that we're seeing around the club. So what is that, and where is that coming from?
Well, I've just gone onto that journey where it's not jumping down a social media rabbit hole. I feel like I'm old enough and grown up enough to see the eye testing. I'm also highly cynical of them nowadays. So when they talk about a project, we hear this in football generally, where there are these buzzwords and it's a project manager. There's no guarantee a project manager really works.
No guarantee anything works.
I do not believe that they really want to push this business to be able to support the footballing operation to the level that I believe the three of us are on. When we try and plead poverty, we are an extraordinarily wealthy football club, which is credit to Levy. He has notionally run, but I believe we're generating a revenue brackets without Champions League football, and also without the sort of commercial revenue that comes with being notionally perceived to be winners. We're doing more than Chelsea and Liverpool and Arsenal
Commercially.
from a revenue perspective.
Sorry, revenue, yeah.
But our wage to turnover ratio is 45%.
And with genuine sponsors, allegedly.
Well, correct. But that's a Man City thing.
I didn't say that. He said that. If you're coming after us, that's him.
Okay, fine,
I said nothing.
No, but we are generating an extraordinary amount of revenue. Now, if you go back to Chelsea under Abramovich, they were unbelievable at commercial deals. They had like Samsung on their shirts, they had Adidas, and they were even further ahead than where we are now, years later, because those brands wanted to be associated with a club that was notionally winning.
Yep.
They knew they'd be in the Champions League every year, and if they dropped out of the Champions League, they knew the spend was going to come, and they thought they'd be back in the Champions League. Those brands can't do that with Tottenham Hotspur because the spend isn't there to be able to for the risk reward, and that is where I believe in a car, the risk reward of pushing that, of releasing the handbrake, whatever it may be, is not there for them to get to Champions League. They don't remember. Go back to the Poch years. It was like, we believed if we drew a game at home, oh my God, we're not going to be in the Champions League and the world's going to fall apart. We're not even talking about Champions League, really. We're not talking about it being this sort of be-all and end-all of the club. Everything around this club is ready for the next push. And really, like politics as well, we can't sit here and say, oh, remember the 90s as the excuse to say, oh, Enoch are amazing. We're now beyond that. Not like saying, oh, God, the Tories and Labour, blah, blah. We're now beyond that stage now. We've moved on from there. You've built this behemoth. Well done. I just think the baton needs to be passed on to someone who wants to put the footballing operations into the front and centre.
I think that's Gary's. You've said recently that's fine, but who is that person and what are they bringing?
But just to summarise, where you're at, because I think if we're going to have this conversation, there's going to be so many people sat there screaming trophies, and this is the least successful period in Tottenham's history, and so on. But what I'm hearing from you, Ollie, is somebody who is dissatisfied with the ownership right now because we're not pushing on in the aftermath of having built this stadium. That was the promised thing that was going to push us on. But at the same time, some sort of an understanding that actually we got to the point where we were building this stadium. Is that?
Yeah. As I said, I think the yellow and gold crew have a further along spectrum to me.
Yellow
Like
and purple, isn't it, for Spurs?
Sorry, yellow and purple. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, guys, don't come after me.
Oh, they're going to.
There are people there that cannot give him a moment of credit.
That's the problem for me. I very much sit on the fence on this. Not a discussion I really like to get involved in. Nobody is pro-Levy anymore. I really don't think anyone is pro-Levy.
Pro-Levy. This is the whole thing that annoys me about the whole debate, is people go, unless you are screaming, Levy out, then unless you're screaming that without any caveat to it, then apparently you are
a stooge
on the payroll,
yeah.
this, that, the other. I mean, honest to God, my view has always been. I said this on the pod that we won, on We Are Tottenham TV, a fabulous pod. But I said this there. it has never been a question of Levy in or Levy out for me. It has only ever been a question of Levy in or Levy out to the Levy outers. To everybody else, it is a question, I think, of what is best for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And that is always the question as to what it should be. It should be the question with Ange. It should be the question with Bissouma. It should be the question with the medical team, the data team, the analytics team. With every single aspect of the club, it should be what is best for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And if there is a better alternative, then that is what it should be, right? And so when it comes to Levy, to me, it has always been a question of, is he perfect? No. Of course he isn't. And I've always had an issue with the disengagement with the fans. And I do think that the board has very low regard for the fans. I've always felt that, the way they've treated the fans on so many issues that I could get into. But on the flip side, has he built the football club to where it is today, to a point where we generate revenue that is one of the top in the world, whereby we can compete if we choose to inject that full 70% of revenue back into the football side of the club, that the full 70% that we're allowed, and we do it in the right way? Yeah, we could be an absolute giant of a club.
This is the point.
I want to pick up on two things. Lord C. two really good comments here. Lord C. Van Dingo says, the problem is Levy doesn't pay the wages or top-level transfer fees. Transfer fees are jury's out a little bit for me. I think we spend money. Wages, we looked at a few weeks ago, Ollie, we're sort of in that sort of fifth to seventh bracket in wages, and that's a problem. Levy's a better chairman than Sugar, who was the reason we stagnated in the 90s. But he also says we'll spend 200 million on 4 players. And goes on to say, this is quite an interesting bit. We got smashed by a team in our financial sphere today. And I brought this up a few weeks ago on the pod. Watch the Boston Red Sox documentary called The Comeback, where they interviewed John W. Henry?
Yes. Yeah.
And he says, I inherited, when he took over in 2003 or 2004, I inherited a country club that didn't want to win and didn't know how to win. And I do think that whoever comes into Tottenham next would probably, and this would be the most anti-Levy thing you ever hear me say, would probably say the same thing.
But it's not a question of anti-Levy. It's a question of.
No, but I'm just saying that I can't
balance. It's not. People think you're anti. People think you're pro-Levy because you're not screaming Levy out. Yeah. But it's more a question of. I think you've always just approached it with a bit of balance. But go on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. That's what I think you would look at, and you would say, what have I inherited here? This club has no. You said it. This is a club that doesn't know how to win, and maybe doesn't. I'm not sure want to win.
Neither had Man City or Chelsea. Let's be honest.
I know that, but Illumatic made a great point, which some other people have picked up on in our comments. Spurs haven't won a title in 63 years and an FA Cup in 33 years. Hang on. I say great point. A point I wanted to bring up. The Rock goes deep. We need to back Ange like we should have backed all the other managers. Slightly wider point, which we'll come on to during the Liverpool game chat. I think we're in a situation now where so many people are angry at loads of different things. The manager, the board, medical, the bloke next to me doesn't support Ange and supports Levy. It's just, there's so many angry people at the moment. I feel like we're in a situation at the moment where they were singing his name at 5. This is going to get me in trouble. They were singing his name at 5-2 today. 5-2 down.
Ange.
Yeah. You're 5-2 down and you're singing the manager's name. I like that support, but is this a little bit of another twist in the knife? Is that a subconscious or maybe even a conscious thing from some of the fans to dig at Levy?
Well, I think the whole thing is right. I mean, we're in a really difficult moment where, on the one hand, we're in the semi-final of a League Cup, and everybody's going, it's fantastic, and we should go all out for that. And on the other hand,
we've got to play them again twice.
Okay, that's by the by. But on the other hand, we're 10th in the league with really inconsistent form, and people want to blame 11th now, maybe. Okay, people seem to want to blame the manager or Levy or whatever it is, and the reality of it is, and this is, nobody will tell me otherwise. Okay, anybody wanting to blame one single entity, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The whole thing is from top to bottom. There isn't a single person who is individually culpable for us being 10th in the league. And we'll come on to the
11th.
Liverpool game, and I've got a lot of issues with how we approach the game, even in as much as it was a basic free hit for us in some ways. And even then we managed to stuff it up. That has problems for me. But this, from top to bottom, there isn't one individual entity that is the problem. And people seem to be in all walks of life just wanting to go, it's that's fault. That's the problem. It's not.
Well, there's little nuance. There's not much nuance.
It's not.
Yeah.
It is a culmination of very many things, okay? And where we are right now is, for a number of years, the strategy has been wrong with the win now under Mourinho, Conte and Espirito Santo. It was wrong.
I think Espirito Santo was in for a win now. He was just available.
Whatever. It was wrong from the minute that they and this will cause a lot of problems, backed Poch with a huge summer that was anchored us for a long time with Ndombele, the Celso Sessignon. Like, there's been things wrong at the club for a long time, and that starts at the top. That is undeniable. It starts at the top. But the reality remains that in the 23 years that Levy has been chairman, we have got to as many finals and semi-finals as we ever did at any point in our history.
Yeah, but the argument was, from some people, like Portsmouth was a disaster. You come up against Chelsea and Man United every time. We just didn't have the quality. If we'd had more quality, we would have gone on and won.
But throughout the history of football, it's not been the best teams that have won the trophies. That's the point of football. That has always been the point of football. That, if it was always the fact that, okay, Tottenham are playing Chelsea in the semi-final and they're the better team, then what's the point of playing the semi-final? Just give them the bye to the final. If it's always been the point of football that Tottenham are playing Manchester United in the final and they're the stronger team, there's no point. The point is, Wigan have beaten Manchester City in a cup final. Leicester have beaten Chelsea in a cup final. They were not the better team, okay? They're not the better team.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
But this is where, people... This is where I'm not, and people go, "You're defending it." I'm not. But the point is, where we are now is we've had the opportunities to win. We just have as many opportunities we've had. In fact, outside of the top 5 clubs, we've had as many opportunities to win. In fact, 3 times as many opportunities to win as any other club.
That Pochettino team should have won the trophy.
We have been in 15 semi-finals or finals. Yeah. The next club behind us, outside of those top 5, has had 5 semi-finals or finals. So we have had 3 times as many chances to win as any other club.
Yeah.
Where we are now, right now, this season, is a culmination of mismanagement from top through to Ange. And that's the short of it, like anybody. But here's the big question about the Levy thing is, let's say 5 years ago we were screaming Levy out. And let's say Levy gone, you know what, I've had enough. At that point, you could have had, I don't know, let's say, hypothetically, I'm not going to get myself in trouble here, but a Qatari Emirates come in and buy the club. They could have done what the hell they liked with it. They could have done what the hell they liked. They could have smashed as much money into the club as they like. But regulation around football now is such that, and this is the question that I have to anybody, and this isn't a defence of Levy, but I want to know, those screaming Levy out right now, we can only spend 70% of revenue, and I think that we should be spending 70% of revenue, by the way. And I think the engagement from the board to the fans should be better. The concessions, all of that, I get all of that, I understand all of that. But on a footballing perspective, with the regulations that are coming in right now, and you see the likes of Newcastle, who have the wealthiest owners in the world, unable to do anything with it because they haven't got the revenue. And people say, what about Chelsea? Don't ask me about them. I can't begin to. There's a few things like that I could get into, but generally, clubs can't spend as they could. You can't buy the league.
Look at a blank check.
So my question is to people right now, what do you want from a new owner? It's not good enough anymore to just say, Levy out, we want some multi-billionaire to buy us the league. What do you actually want within the regulations of the game?
Well, look at October 2021, Newcastle, Ashley left Newcastle after 14 years. And they had their next game when the new guys took over. They had it was like the '78 World Cup final, ticker tape, and just like they'd won something. And we all sat there and thought, bloody hell, Newcastle are here. And yeah, they had a good season. They got themselves into the Champions League, flunked straight out of it in the group stage. Hasn't worked out for them. Really hasn't worked out for them. It's not a case of careful what you wish for, but you're right. What's next then? If he's going to go, and we're all here for change, and we're all, like I said, no one's pro-Levy. Like you said on the pod recently, Gaz, if Levy's going to go and Ashley's going to be the one that comes in, well,
or he might Ashley like.
Yeah, I like Levy, thanks.
But that's it, isn't it? It's very simple to me, right? If somebody puts up the money for the club to buy it, and their mandate is, I don't know, we are going to spend the 70% of revenue on the pitch, and we're going to keep on pushing this club, and everything's going to go back in the football, and we're purely focused on the football, and everything is about making this club successful and trophies and winning. I will drag Levy out there myself. I promise you right now. I'll be sell the club, get out. Right. On the flip side, and the reality is this: there aren't many chairmen or owners in the league right now, including those of Newcastle. Villa are doing a good job, but also they're dipping a little bit right now, and I think they're going to face some tough times. Who do people want? If you turn around to me right now and say which club is acting within the realms of PSR and the increasing regulations,
possibly them up the road.
Perhaps so.
Go and sign Declan Rice for 100 million.
Perhaps they're doing it right. Maybe so. They're probably one of the few clubs that you could point to. Brighton,
the team we played today.
Brighton, Bournemouth,
Liverpool,
fine. Maybe there are clubs that are doing it, but this is a much more even playing field over the course of time, is it not?
Yeah.
But moving on, look, we know that the club isn't being sold today or tomorrow. But it's the.
Is it not being set up to be sold?
Pardon?
Is it not being set up to be sold?
I would argue that they are, and I'm not an accountant. Obviously, my brother is trained in that field, and
what's he saying?
Pardon?
What's he saying?
He's more extreme than I am. He's not like frothing in the mouth, but they're plumping the goose for whatever reason. I think the hotel thing, potentially they need to keep a cash balance in order to borrow more money to build up the hotel. Property development, which I am in, has gone through your borrowing costs are much higher now than when they built the stadium, and your build cost is much, much higher, and your notional values have come down. So it's not as profitable as it once was. There's an argument maybe they're looking to keep a good cash reserve for more borrowing. They're very public about the idea of selling X percent of the club to get some external investment. They're obviously particularly opaque about what the investment really is. Me being the cynic now is actually you're just buying part of the Levy Trust, the Lewis Trust shares and giving them £500-700 million, and that's not really coming into the football side, but it's basically going to say, right, if 20% of the club is worth X, then 100% of the club is worth X times 5. And therefore, it's a kind of it's a part of it's a valuation, as it were, and they can then say, right, we've got that, and we can do it. And as I said, I'm not have that. It's above my pay grade to know how that really works. But I don't think it's going to be people that Mbappe's going to sign next week because you just suddenly had £700 million about. And I'm going to clarify something. I don't expect us to buy Mbappe. I don't expect us to put 200 million. I do expect us to go into summer transfer window and buy more than one Premier League ready player like a Solanke. Okay. And actually, if you look at the eye test, Solanke has been a really good signing.
Brilliant. And
he's coming to the team. And imagine if we had one or two more.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, right? We're living in a world where you're getting Dom Solanke for 60 million, a proven Premier League player, proven Premier League striker. When you think about it in these terms, it's difficult how you position this. Archie Gray was 40 million. A non-proven Premier League player. You're buying potential. 40 million pounds.
Well, I don't mean it's as in a bad way to Archie Gray. I think we've overpaid a little bit there. But how do we get to that figure? How's that happened?
Well, that's the point, though. I don't care about like how we get there and what it is. That's the market. That's an English. You got to buy an English proven young player. It's costing £40 million. I don't listen. I think the signing of Archie Gray is going to prove to be a fantastic signing, as I do Dom Solanke. But I also don't disagree that actually you can pick up players for Dele Alli 5 million. You know,
look,
I don't know that exists right now.
No, what's his name? Rogers at Villa. Would they
Rogers at Villa.
8 million.
£8 million. Rogers.
Akanji at City, they bought him for about £15 million. Yeah, even Alvarez, they bought 50. So look, it's not all about having 100
that's
million.
my point.
No, right. I get that, but then equally, and then this is another part of the question mark around the footballing operation of the club, because you're right, it's not just Levy, it's not just Ange.
But it's not just about how much you spend.
No,
is the point I'm making.
But I think those might be the exceptions rather than the rule. You know, there's you can be, but I think you've got this Scott Munn Lange thing. Are they really on the level that you'd expect at Tottenham to be at Tottenham Hotspur? That I don't know. It's completely opaque. One thing actually, I think, to move on from this conversation, and this is this is the first time I've seen this. It's the way Ange has become this figurehead to the supporters against Levy. Because everyone's saying, actually, no. Whether we think he's good enough or not, and I don't think he's good enough. You know, the tactics are, it's like school. But anyway, I'm not going to go into whether I think he's good enough or bad enough. But the fact is, everyone's saying you're not sacking him, Levy, because you've done that every time before, and we know you're going to mysteriously find 50 million quid behind the sofa in January, blah blah blah. And you want a new manager bounce, you can wipe the sweat from your brow. Oh, it's all okay, and then kick it to the long grass. So Ange has become this weird figurehead of, no, you're not sacking him because actually you're going to try. You've done that.
Right, let's move it on to
so that's a good segue into. Let's actually move it on to Tottenham and Ange.
Well, and Soul Sniper Gaming, a regular contributor, makes this point. And Gary, me and you had a WhatsApp chat earlier. Soul Sniper Gaming basically says, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you thought today would be different, you're delusional. 8 days rest with a full squad for Liverpool. Compare, us threadbare with no centre backs, backup, no backup, right? No backup striker, no centre halves, no goalkeeper, all this stuff.
To a point, that's correct.
To a point, that's correct. We said earlier, we talked on the pod 2 weeks ago. Got to get through Rangers, Southampton, and Man United, and some of the performances were odd at times. Rangers was poor, Southampton was great, Man United was great until about 9:30. Got through those games, fine, great, well done. Threadbare squad, you've got through them, great. We said on our WhatsApp earlier, Gaz, today feels like a bit of a free hit. We can lose today, but we don't want to be humiliated. We don't want to be humiliated. We don't want to be hammered.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we basically got hammered. And I'll just start with the lineup as you always do. It was the same team that went out against Man United, which is needs must because we don't have any players. If you've been a long-time listener and watcher, you'll know my theories on our injuries. I'm not going to go there again. So we had Forster in goal, Porro.
But sorry to interrupt, you also know my theory about why we don't have any players or enough players.
Well, we've just talked about that for like half an hour.
Exactly.
It's a good conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one that needed to be had. And I'm glad we've had it, and I don't have it again.
My name's Ollie, and I'm a Levy outer. Hey everyone, welcome.
Forster in goal, Porro, Dragusin, I'm doing this from memory, Gray and Spence kept his place in the team. Sarr, Bissouma, Maddison, Kulusevski, Solanke and Son.
There was, and then I made the point on the group earlier on today about Spence being left back because one of the things was forgotten about the Tottenham Liverpool sliding doors game in 2017
when Lovren got subbed.
And they went and we know the story. We've heard it all before. But Aurier played left back that day. He'd never played it before for Spurs, but Pochettino switched him to left back, so he'd be the other way round to play against Salah, who was cutting in on his left. And actually, I know Salah did score, but Aurier kept him really quiet. I think we even went 3 at the back, so it always meant that Salah was coming in onto 2 players, and we kept him notionally quite quiet. So hence my view today that Spence should be left back, even though Dogi
Salah scored twice and got 2 assists. So how did that go?
That's not. I don't think that Spence. I mean, come on, like the whole defence a mess, but it's that was my theory on it today. And actually, you see Spence outpaced Salah quite a lot on balls over the top, and and I said as well to us the fact that Spence, whether he's good, bad, or indifferent, at the moment he's coming in relatively fresh, so his athleticism will get him out of some holes.
He is like a new signing.
No.
I think Neil's basically almost hit the nail on the head. Neil in our live comments has said, how do you have a true analysis of a knackered second choice team against the best team out there at the moment?
Manage it properly.
I think that's almost the point. And the point is, coming into this game, I think a lot of us sort of felt it was kind of like a free hit, as you alluded to earlier, Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a free hit, like ignoring our position in the league, where it's obviously not a free hit because we're 10th and it's pretty desperate and we need to close the gap to, the top order. But ignoring that, you take everything into consideration, the injuries that we have, the number of games we've played, the fact that Liverpool have had 24 hours more rest, the fact that they had basically a very easy game against Southampton in the week.
There are mitigating circumstances.
A lot of it. And this was one of those where I think we sat on this pod a couple of days ago with Jamie Carragher, and we all went, it would be a gargantuan effort for Tottenham to get anything at all out of this game.
Yep.
So Neil makes the right point. Like, how do you truly analyse this? And that's true to an extent. The way that I would analyse this is the first 20, 25 minutes, I was really pleased. I was really pleased with how we were playing. I thought we restricted them to very little in that first 20, 25 minutes. I can't remember too much. And I actually even remember at times, I say I actually remember, I've been
beers down.
I've been in the pub since 2 o'clock. So, I mean, you how much you take of what I say tonight is up to you guys. But, I remember 20 minutes in, them having the ball at the back, Liverpool, passing it around the back line and us not pressing, that right
Your
winger,
bugbear where the wing,
that right winger who presses the centre back, and we were sitting in, and I was screaming, "Good Tottenham, good, really good." So we were sitting in, and we were making it hard, and we looked difficult to break down. And I thought, if this is the way we're going to play against these, just sit in, conserve energy. We might have half a chance here. But it all went kind of wrong when they scored a really soft goal, and they went 1-0 up. But I've got to say, what's weird to me, and I don't know if it was, I can't work it out, because like against Chelsea, we weren't doing that. We were just chasing shadows, and it was like a dog after a bone. And the differential, I swear to God, to anybody that doesn't believe what I'm saying, watch it. Watch those 2 games back and watch the pressing of our right winger. And you'll see, against Liverpool today, the first 20 minutes, we were sat in a block. And it looked good and it looked compact, like it did against City. And this is where I don't understand what the instructions are. And I'm not sure, I don't know if the players necessarily do. Because Neil was right. Like, how do you assess it? If we'd lost 1 or 2-0, playing really conservative, I could have gone, it hurts a bit, because obviously it always hurts. But what are we going to expect from this team in this moment at this time?
Yeah.
But what hurts me now is having seen us set up in what I thought was the right way.
We've still let in 6 goals.
To then just fall apart. And you could say, but we scored 3 goals against the best defence in the league, and they are the best defence in the league. We scored, I think, a quarter of the goals that they've conceded all season.
They've conceded 16, we've scored 3 of them.
Right. So we scored, what, a fifth of the goals they've conceded all season, like tonight. That's good.
But I don't have a problem with us going forward, Gary. I clearly have a problem with the way we're coached defensively. And we've got one of our regular defenders playing today. Spence may become that, but Porro's been run into the ground. Just manage it better. Again, it happened at 2-0. We get back into 2-1, and everybody's like, get to half-time, get to half-time, get to half-time. And then you've got Dragusin and Gray standing on the halfway line. Before we know it, it's 4-2 or 3.5-2, whatever it was, 3-2. And with 3-1 down, and it's done.
Yeah, that's the point. It was 2-1 going in at half-time, and we'd have all taken that. We'd have all gone, all right, like, we've survived a few moments there.
We're still in it.
We got a goal with a bit of pressing and a Maddison good finish. But we are right in this game. 2-1 at half-time, you're in a right game. The game management at that moment...
It's not that moment, Gaz. The game management's non-existent. I want to just pick up on something that Sean said earlier, where he made the flippant comment, go and support Everton, They drew. We said they won 0-0. I don't know what he means by that. They drew 0-0.
Sean, mate.
Everton in the last 2 games. I don't want to be Everton. Let's be honest. My wife supports Everton. I've seen them play a lot. They are so boring. They've drawn 4 of their last 6 games 0-0. Okay, that's George Graham stuff for us. However, they've drawn 0-0 at Arsenal and 0-0 at home to Chelsea. Could you imagine? Now they know their limits, Everton. We don't seem to know ours.
Can I tell you what Everton do have now as well? They've got a bit of hope. They're new owners. Yes, they've been, like when you go back to who you don't want, like Mashari, whatever it was.
I don't know anything about these owners.
No, but yeah, we don't know anything about it. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't want but what I'm saying is suddenly there's a little bit of hope there.
But Ollie.
But they've been through this before. And I don't,
But I'm not sure I agree with that, Ollie.
But the point, but they do have, they've certainly got a bit of hope. But no, where Everton are, and I'd say one argument about it is like, oh, what about Leeds? We are so big now, which again is credit to Levy. We're almost like too big to fail now. We're huge, but we are failing at the moment. And then we'll come back, and then let's go back to the footballing side of things. I mean, I made this point earlier on to you guys. We conceded 63 goals last season in the Premier League. We knew we'd have the Europa League as well. We knew that would put extra strain on the team. We knew that Van der Ven has got dodgy hamstrings. We know that Romero has got a patchy record in terms of attendance.
Missed over 50 games in his
Correct. His attendance record isn't great. Udogie had an operation this summer. And dare I say, we sold Emerson Royal, who should have been sold, but picked up a hell of a lot of minutes last season. And we decided not to buy any defenders. So what did we expect would happen? And we're sat here today. So we're sat here today, and this is my argument about Ange saying he's had a bad hand, but he's playing it badly.
Right.
And that's where we are.
That's what I was going to say to you. So I agree with you.
When I was driving home, and I had to leave early today, for one reason or another. It just turned 5-1, so that I didn't need much. The door was open, so I didn't need to
that was the reason.
No,
there was another reason, but that was the reason.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm driving home, and at one point, so after the game stuff, so Alan Pardew, who is obviously the doyen of football knowledge, but let's be honest here, he has been a Premier League manager, and he's a 20 year, how many years of playing in the Premier League, and what he was saying was the basic stuff. I wouldn't want Alan Pardew as our manager or anything like that, obviously.
Oh, we want Pardew as our manager.
But what he was saying was the fact like you've got Archie Gray, you've got Archie Gray sitting there on the halfway line, who's not a centre back, who's an 18 who joined the club 6 months ago. You've got Fraser Forster, who is a 37-year-old goal line goalkeeper.
Yep.
That's where he's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is.
So you've got this huge space behind.
Yep.
So you've got to adapt, and you've also got to say to your defenders, give Archie, don't let him be on his own. Don't isolate him. Hug him, make sure he's around him. And that's the midfielders as well.
Yep.
And there was none of that.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the bad hand is having to go into a game against Liverpool with Spence, Gray, Dragazin, Porro, who's burnt out, and Forster. That's the bad hand. But then the way you've got to adapt. Every manager on earth has to sit there and say, I haven't got 5 clones of my top 5. So I have to therefore play to these guys' strengths and weaknesses accordingly. You can't be that dogmatic about it. And that's where he's wrong.
Am I playing pocket aces the same way I'm playing Jack 10? No. If I get that a good hand, I'll play it one way. If I get that a baddish hand, I'll play it another way. He totally manages the game. Not just managed today, manages the games wrong. You can say all you want about the squad, and you've agreed with me here, the squad, the injuries, all of these things make it even more reason for me to say manage it differently. Matt Holland on our commentary today on the World Feed commentary said, God,
friend of the show,
Matt Holland at, was it 2-1? I think, or maybe Solanke's goal. He said, Spurs have got some really good players and they score so many goals, they're not out of this game yet, going forward. Something along those lines. And I was just like, we've had arguments about the squad before, and plenty of people will argue about the squad. Could have done more. Of course we could. This is what we've got. I don't worry about us going forward. We've scored so many goals. We're averaging over 3.5 goals per game under Ange. Are we not entertained? No, we're being humiliated. Just manage it. You're going on about injuries. It's a massive problem, but just be better. And
so talking about 2 minutes in, and Forster's got the ball, and he plays that.
Chips it to Salah.
As I described that as like me trying to play like a 9-9 from 120 and topping it. And he takes straight to Salah, and you've set the tone. You have set the tone for the game. And Liverpool, they may not run as much as we do, but they are brutally efficient.
Yep.
And they know when to go. And like, do I think they're that great? I think I've seen better teams, but what I saw from them today was an efficiency.
They're also fully fit, which helps.
And they're fully fit. And again, take that into account and blah, blah, blah. But they knew to go, every time they had a cross, they knew to go back post because we go very narrow and they had 2 men at the back who were going back. They'd obviously watched us and they were adapting accordingly, which we know we are not doing.
And said in his post-match again,
I'm not going
to change. And it just worries me. I said, sorry, Gaz, I know you want to chip in. I said after Bournemouth, I wondered if the penny had dropped with him when he gave it. Oh, it was me. It hasn't. It absolutely hasn't.
But I think that's the point I was kind of alluding to, and we cannot get away from the fact that any Premier League squad or team missing 10 players that would otherwise have taken minutes that day would struggle.
Yep.
City are missing Rodri, and they've lost, 13 in the last 15?
No. 9 in the last 12.
I'm terribly sorry. 9 in the last 12. My bad. 9 in the last 12. They've lost City because they've lost Rodri. What other injuries have they got?
Well, they lost Kovacic. They lost Kovacic, but he's back.
A couple here and there.
Yeah,
but
yeah, they've had the odd one or two.
It cannot be understated that we are actually in the midst of a proper crisis that I think gets dismissed by us as well, quite easily. But it gets dismissed by us because we still field a team that we feel are capable. Apart from tonight. Tonight's the only time I think any of us in the last run of games turned around and went, ooh. Ooh.
That's a problem.
Carragher said it as well. He's like, it might be close, but then the bench is going to kill you. Yeah, I mean that's if you need the bench. Like, these guys are knackered. They're knackered. And we are in the midst of an absolute injury crisis. And I go back to the point I said earlier, it just confuses me a little bit where Andrew will say, we're not going to change the way we play. But yet in the first, I see us play a certain way against City twice. And I asked the question, as I have on this pod, was that Andrew's coaching or did they just force us into that? And then I see us not pressing Liverpool in the way that we do other games 20 minutes in. And I'm like, we're playing a certain way. And actually, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but we still let in 6 goals.
No, but then it changed after they scored. And I'm just like, there's just a discrepancy between, there's a mix of messages.
But Gaz,
that I don't quite understand.
Not just about today. This is a quote from someone called Grumpy on Twitter. I don't know if he's a listener, but he should be because we get on Twitter. He says, it's not about today.
There's not many you get on.
I know. People just don't like me that much. Ipswich and Palace defeats were with close to full squad. Second half collapses to Leicester and Brighton. Leicester not so much. I thought we battered Leicester really. Was before the fixture schedule got heavy. He goes on to say the injuries are mostly due to Ange's methods, something that I can get on board with. But Nick C, who's on Twitter, who says...
I saw him today at the game.
Did you? Okay,
yes.
Friend of the show.
Yeah.
He says, I'm a little surprised at the backlash today. I went expecting to lose heavily due to injury and fatigue. I don't think even Sir Alex Ferguson gets a result today. Playing the best team in Europe at the moment, missing 1 player, while we're missing 6 to 9, with less rest and unable to rotate onto the next. I just can't get away from manage it better. These are not excuses. These are not reasons to let in 6 goals. We've had worse football teams and played against better football teams.
Correct.
And not conceded 6 goals.
And the big problem for me is having found a way back into the game and you're 2-1 going into the 45th minute.
Yeah,
it's just inexcusable.
Yeah, but you go back to the United game. You've just scored an Olympico, which I didn't know was called an Olympico, by the way. And you're thinking, right, you've scored an 88, call it, and you're going to have 5-ish minutes of injury time. And we still concede.
Yeah, that can happen from a corner. You made a great point earlier about, we know in Anderson you're not entertained. What would have entertained you on?
Okay. So going back to Thursday night, what would have entertained me? No, winning 4-3 from being 3-0 up on 62 minutes is not entertaining. What would have been entertaining? It's And apparently the Bournemouth fans was singing Reuben Interim today, which is brilliant. Well done to Bournemouth. They're probably, I'd say, a bigger achievement than their actual result.
I won't mention their manager.
Taking the piss out of United. Again, people of our age, the generation above us, it's about Liverpool. For us, it's United. Yes, United were helpful at some points against Arsenal, but yeah, I really hate United. I hate their smug fans. So being 3-0 up against them, that's fun. Giving them 2 goals and being in a cup tie at 65 minutes, no, that's not fun. There's, on Radio 5, they're Spurs are the most entertaining club in the country. And this is after today's game. No, they are not. They are the most stupid, poorly defensively coached club in the country. Going forward, wonderful.
Well, here's a stat. Tottenham's Premier League matches, which I just alluded to, Tottenham's Premier League matches under Ange Postecoglou have seen an average of 3.6 goals scored per game, both teams combined. Among those to take charge of 50-plus matches in the competition, this is the highest goals per game ratio for any manager.
Wow, that's a great stat. Are you not entertained?
No, I'm humiliated.
Because I go to watch Spurs win.
Yeah.
There's this. You have the thing about being a Spurs fan. Look, we selling. That lot down the road will sell their soul for any style of football to try and win. That doesn't work with Spurs. We are better people than them. We tried it with Mourinho, and the culture of the club doesn't allow for that. We will not do that, and it didn't work. Despite whatever politics happen between manager and ownership, we fundamentally do not. But do I want to see a rugged Tottenham team that battles and defends?
Well, this is what I'm saying about 0-0 against Chelsea and 0 against Arsenal for Everton. I don't want to be Everton, but could you imagine? I'd be like, wow, that is a great to draw 0-0 at Arsenal right now. To draw 0-0 at home to Chelsea.
As I said,
I'm not saying I want to draw 0-0 at home to Chelsea, but the point
you look at, as I said, at half time today, Paul Coy was talking to Graham Roberts and Michael Dawson. We don't have those guys in our team now. Rugged defenders who are not going to let the other people pass, despite limitations of ability there may have been. But these guys went out and they fought. They fought. And Tottenham Hotspur, you have to fight but play beautiful football as well.
We had a conversation post Chelsea on this pod. It was me, you, and Jake Sanders. Mm-hmm. Happy birthday. And we said the next 3 games are pretty crucial for Ange. And we said it was Rangers and Southampton and United.
Yep.
And if he had lost any of those,
yep,
then he might have been at that point after Chelsea in big trouble. So he drew 1-1 to Rangers, beat Southampton 5-0, beat United. I put it to you, I think tonight, grievances with the performance, but ultimately the result is what we all expected. I put it to you, our next run of 5 games is Forest away in the league, Wolves at home, Newcastle at home,
yep,
Liverpool at home in the League Cup,
fun,
and Tamworth away before we play Arsenal away. So where are we? Where are we with this? I ask you, Johnny. Where are you with Ange and all of this? I mean, Jake said, if we lose any of the next 3 games, then it becomes hard.
We didn't.
Well, I remember Rangers.
I said about, not you, Johnny.
No, but I was saying Rangers. I thought was a not lose.
Yeah.
Because you got the 2 games afterwards.
But your name's still not Johnny, though.
I know. Well, I can be anyone wants me to be.
It's 2024. I'll do what I want.
Olivia.
James Form. Well, I'll come on to it with linking through this. James Forbes. You people want the same players to play every game flat out with no subs. Get a grip on
No,
things.
I don't. I absolutely don't want the same people. That's the whole point.
I want things to be managed differently. And I know, picking up on James' point and linking it to your question, Gaz, I know we are in a situation right now where we have 10 players out and it ain't going to get any better. Boxing Day, Bentancur's back, and that's probably the only other body that we're going to get.
And then gets suspended.
Then he gets suspended because he's on 4 years. Where am I? Was that your question, Gaz? Where am I with all this?
What needs to happen?
I don't think Ange is getting sacked anytime soon. No. I really, really don't. But if I was in charge and we lost to Forest, I would... Oh my God, I think I'm going to say it. I think if we lost to Forest, I think I might sack him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I said a couple of weeks ago that Forest...
No, do you know what? Sorry, Ollie, I've changed my mind.
Carry on.
Wow. Go on, flip-flop.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't going to start sacking.
I think he's quite lucky that a Forest defeat would come on Boxing Day and the January transfer windows are nearly open. Do you know what? I was coming in here, Gaz, and I said to you, we had some dinner. I said, I don't know where I am. And 2 hours later, after I said that, we had a lovely dinner. No, I changed my mind. So don't pick up on this in the comments. I wouldn't sack him if we lost to Forest. I'd be very, very worried. But in my head, as the owner, I'd be like, do you know what? He's getting a pass at the moment because we have so many injuries. Do you know what? I don't know what I think. I just want to see a little bit more pragmatism. We're not going to get it. So quite frankly, I don't know. I just don't know.
So
and that's a worry for me because I want us to win, but at the moment I can't see this being sustainable. Even with our players back, we've lost to Palace, Ipswich, drawn at Leicester, had some pretty shitty results last season with our full squad. Do you know what? He gets the full season for me, and after that, I don't know, ask me the question again.
So going back to the 3 games prior, the Rangers, United and Southampton. And actually, Rangers, as I said, I think it was a not lose because of the league situation, and we got through it somehow, although just about.
Yeah.
Southampton, fine, great. And actually, that was probably the best lot because actually we were 5-0 up, and then we were able to take players off and manage it and kept the clean sheet.
Can I interrupt you about Southampton, Ollie? They've gone and lost 5-0 to us and been battered by everybody in the last 2 months. They sacked their manager. They go to Fulham, who are a good team, not a great team. I watched them today, unfortunately.
Real horrible game.
Horrible game. Horrible.
Fantastic for them.
They have been organised.
Yep.
They've drawn 0-0 against a decent team who are in a really good run of form. Fulham had scored in 15 straight games, their best ever run in the Premier League. They've gone there, they've drawn 0-0. Fulham barely laid a glove on them.
Yep.
It can be done. Are you telling me that Southampton got better defence than us? Of course they haven't, even with the players we've got right now. It can be done. Sorry. Ollie.
Yeah, no, okay, I don't. I agree with that. I agree. I fundamentally agree with that. The United game, as I said, was going swimmingly, but it left this taste in your mouth. And all of the neuroses and all of the thoughts about the football completely came to light. You're
Correct.
like 3-0 up against United, should never be sniffed at. 4-3 at the end. You're like, and I was, you guys did the pod afterwards, and are you not entertained? This and no, I was fucking pissed off because we shouldn't be doing that.
Yep.
Then it moves into today, which has the added bonus of obviously Liverpool getting 3 points against us, which is hopefully helps their league title challenge. But anyway, today I do agree on the sort of the free hit type mentality, and I wasn't expecting anything today. We come against a good team. I think we did hit the end of the wall. I said a couple of weeks ago about Forest. It's a really interesting one. First of all, it's Nuno. So you've got a real PR element to it.
Nothing to do with it.
You've got
it builds up the pressure. You've got this guy.
He'd
love nothing more right now.
Yeah,
Three points are right.
No. There'll be a press narrative about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nuno is at the right club for him. And I'd also argue that to the level they can do it, they are buying the players for what his system requires. And actually, the things are coming together and they're all pulling in the same direction.
Really?
And they are
They
outperforming.
just bought every player under the sun. No.
They had done. No, that was year one.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is they've got an organised back four, they're hard-working midfield, and then they've got the wingers, and then Woods obviously scoring a lot of goals. You'll always get this every year in the Premier League where you have this one team that's outperforming, that often's not in Europe, that are not really they really have the injuries or suspensions, and they're playing once a week. This and that.
Yeah, they've got one injury for us.
And they're getting the job done. To me, this was the one that was more important in Liverpool, because when you do come up against those teams, you might be not on the best run of form, but you're the bigger club. You're the more experienced Premier League team nationally. They might go 1-0 up, but actually you can turn it around. Actually, I think Newcastle did that to them a few weeks ago. And actually your quality does come through and you can take those 3 points off them. And as I said, there's the narrative that will come through about Nuno. So I was looking at this game as the more important one. And can we go there and win? Yeah, but at the moment who knows what the result's going to be. What was the game after? It's Wolves. And again, they'll have a new manager bounce.
Then Newcastle.
And then Newcastle, who at Newcastle, at home. Yeah, it's a tough few. Look, every game is going to be tough. Tamworth included in its own way. But I don't think he's being sacked anytime soon, unless he loses the next few games in a row. There are open wounds in that team, but I think they will. I think Levy's under a weird pressure on this one. I don't think he's going to sack him.
Neil picked up on my point about are Southampton going to go on a run now? Quite frankly, I don't care what Southampton do. I don't think they're going to get drubbed 5-0 again anytime soon. The guy they just hired, Juric, is quite pragmatic. He did it at Genoa, a team in really poor form. He will organise you and whatever, Southampton or whatever. Don't care. But I think they'll sort themselves out.
I think we'll finish above them, won't we?
I think we'll finish above them. They'll still get relegated, but they will change the way they play to adapt to what they've got, and we're not doing that.
And also, I think we all agreed, by the way, on the matter. The one thing we do love about Ange is I'm going to go for it mentality. That's how I win. I go for it. I'm on the front foot. I go for it.
That's the Aussie mentality.
You know,
Is it not?
No.
All
Well, I've said on here before,
Is
the
Steve
Aussie.
Smith a batsman that stands at the crease and goes for it? Or is he a batsman that stands at the crease and occupies 350 balls?
Mentally,
They punch above their weight,
and that's a different. I think cricket's slightly different.
No, I think the Australian team of sort of 80s and 90s were a front foot Australia. They weren't Bazball, but they were a front foot team of the time, because obviously sport has changed dramatically. What I am saying is that we love the positivity, notional positivity, that we're going to go out there, we're going to try and dictate the game, but unfortunately the naivety is there as well, and it's being shown. It'll be extra shown up in a game like today. And let's be honest, you look at those stats on Sky Sports about number of goals conceded, chances conceded, this and that. We're bottom of the league on every.
There's a great Twitter account at John O'Blaine. Do they know him? He did a great tweet today about how we conceded 12 goals at White Hart Lane in the 16-17 season, the whole of the 16-17 season. So that was 22 home games, 12 goals. We have conceded 13 home goals in the last 2 weeks. 3 against United, 4 against Chelsea, 6 against Liverpool.
Well, our listeners have picked up on the question that I asked about where are we over the next couple of games. And some of them said defeat to Forest and defeat to Wolves puts real pressure on Ange.
But I think that's why the January window made to save him.
Alan Leslie, a member, says it's scary we are worrying about playing Forest. I'm actually not worried about playing Forest. I've got to be honest. I'm genuinely not worried about playing them. Call me mad. I think we'll actually get past them. I think we'll get through them.
Well, we're 8 points behind them.
I think we'll get through them. Yeah.
They just won at Brentford, who have got a brilliant home record. They're a team that are doing their manager's instructions. They're organised.
Well, so are we.
Well, that's a different. Yeah.
No, I think we'll get through Forest. I think they're the sort of team where you get the first goal and it throws their game plan out the window. I think you get a goal up against them, you get on them, get that goal up, and suddenly they've got to come at you. They've got to play a bit more.
Yeah, it's a very different game.
It's a different game. I mean, that might be not so much the case against us, because we're going to play the same way every single time. But I just don't think the one game that they've lost recently, and the one game that City bizarrely have won, is that inverse where they beat Forest 3-0 and just destroyed them, because ultimately you play football against a team like Forest, you'll win. You'll just win.
Yeah, but equally,
and you should do.
Every team knows they're going to get chances against us.
Every team will get chances against every team.
No, but when I say chances, I mean like big chances, and even 3-0 up, even 3-0 up, they know they're still in the game.
Ollie, that's not true. Our XG against.
Oh, don't give me that now.
Our XG against, when we had a proper team and when we had a full team out, was the second lowest in the league. So you can't dismiss that. 13, 14, 15 games, our XG against was the second lowest in the league. So
our producer Jesse tonight, that John O'Blaine account, he's put it up. Great tweet. That's worrying, isn't it?
John O'Blaine, what a guy. But we're talking about the now. We are talking about the now.
Stanley Dew, Gary, you have lots of optimism. Well, I think it was the great Brendan Rodgers. You said, without hope, a man can live 3 days without water, but without hope, you die.
Brendan Rodgers said that.
Yeah, something like that.
The Liverpool manager.
Yeah.
Was it in his envelope that it was wearing?
Yeah, it was one of them. It was one of them, and I'm not a big fan of his, but I'll go with that right now. You got to have hope. You got to have hope.
It's the hope that kills you if Tottenham doesn't do it before that.
No, it's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that gets you through as well.
The Forest is a big game. They're playing well. They're doing what they're. And am I worried about playing Forest? I kind of agree with Gary in terms of I'm not worried about it, but I know we're coming up against a team that's organised, and we're away from home, which we don't have the greatest record in, and we are hemorrhaging goals. So you can't go in there like gun ho, which we will. But we're going to score. Yes, I'm very confident we will score.
I think without a doubt, without a question, I will say this: as much as I'm sat here now, as I'm optimistic. I think Forest and Wolves is a must-win, an absolute must-win.
Yeah, I think they've come in,
and it's got to that point now. And then you've got to go into Newcastle in that early kickoff, and you've got to win the next 3 out of 3. Like to get us to the point of a really respectable season, you've got to win the next 3 games, and they are all winnable.
Just to pick up on the 16-17 stuff, Sidney Duke, another member, says, Johnny, in 16-17 we had Wanyama and Dembele destroying midfields. I think Ange Postecoglou would be asking Alderweireld and Vertonghen to play on the halfway line, which is why I just wish he'd adapt more.
They kind of did. They played a really high line back in the day.
Like, football was slightly different even back
but like,
then.
yeah, but if you think about it, playing out from the back, we were one of the only two. We were one of the teams that did it.
Dyer used to come and get the ball.
Correct,
off the goal.
and also the pressing thing. We were one of the early teams
100%.
to do it. You know, they're much fitter now. Actually, going out to there's a point about if Udogie's fit, go with Udogie and Spence. And as I said, I thought Spence should be left back today for a reason. I actually thought at half time, and this was before we went 3-1 down, but I thought at half time he should have taken off Porro, put Udogie on if he was fit enough, brackets, and put Spence right back, and actually get some thrust down his week, because Porro is so far off. You know, he's burnt out. I can't criticise the effort or whatever. And when you're tired, you're going to make more mistakes. So actually, I was quite up for seeing on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. I would actually be up for seeing those two playing in orthodox left and right and going for it, because they're going to come up against those inverted wingers, and you've got to push those wingers back. And I think Porro should be having a rest.
Just a couple of other things to pick up on before I think we wrap up. There's as you say, Spence, I think, was one of the few players that came out with any credit tonight. So, Sniper Gaming, why does Bissouma get such a bad rep compared to Sarr? I can tell you very simply why that is. Sarr was in his second season, a season and a half, really, of full-team football. Bissouma has got 6 or 7 years of Premier League football, and we know the level that he's at now. And it's not consistent enough. Sarr does seem to improve. I criticised Sarr earlier on in the season. I did. I didn't think he was going to get to the level, but actually he just seems to step up and step up. I think he was exhausted tonight. Bissouma, we know what he is. That's why Soul Sniper Gaming, in my view, I just think we know what Bissouma's ceiling is. Going through to a couple of others.
And I also think Bissouma's just, you know, he's not playing devil's advocate.
Sidney Duke picks up on that exact point.
I think he's rubbish. But
who's rubbish?
Bissouma's is not. But also the role, that number 6 role in this system is brutal. And if it's not being done well, it's totally exposed to the whole
Is that
team.
what the kids call the pivot?
It's a single
It
pivot,
was.
yeah.
It was.
All right.
I'm not sure it is now.
Can I ask you, well, before we go, I'm going to ask you for the predictions for Forest. I just want to ask people on our chats. I want to have the predictions for the Forest game, because we've often get criticised on any pod. I can't believe you predicted the other team to win. But we're getting into situations now where people are brave enough to predict Spurs to lose because they don't trust the team. And could you put? I like this. Neil's just said 1-2. I assume that means Forest.
Spurs are away.
Spurs are away. Yeah. Does that mean we're going to win 2-1 nil, or we're going to lose 2-1? Just tell me Spurs win 2-1 or Forest win 2-1. I want to quickly get a overview of what people think about us playing Forest. I'm going to ask you, Ollie, what you think the score will be.
I'm going to go 2-1. Go for it to Spurs.
Soul Sniper Gaming says hard to see 3 from 3, Gary. I'm not saying it will be 3 from 3. I'm saying it needs to be 3 from 3.
What's your prediction for Forest, guys?
Forest, I think we're beating 3-1. I really do. I think we'll go there. And as long as we turn up, I've said to you, I'm going to do 2 predictions now for Tottenham. But as long as Tottenham turn up, I think we beat them 3-1. I don't think they're as good as people think.
A couple of Desmonds here. Stanley Liu and Paul Bates have gone 2-2. Sidney Duke says Bentancur is back. Music to my ears, anyway. and that
Oh,
will
he's
win
done
3-1.
now, isn't he? So that's one off the rank.
Yeah. I did promise I would pick up on a comment from Lloyd Becker, friend of the show.
Robert goes with me, 3-1 Tottenham.
I can't remember what Lloyd was going to say. I think Lloyd was going to make the point about the being better just before half time. Anyway, that was a while ago. Neil says we win 2-1 and we beat Wolves 3-1. Lord C. Van Dingo says we're going to lose 3-1. Alan Leslie says 2-0 to Spurs Coys. Robert agrees with Gary, 3-1 Spurs. I think we're going to get beat. I do. Sorry.
Well, that will.
It's your pod.
It's our pod.
That will cause. I think that will cause real waves, real ripples.
What, me predicting Spurs to get beat?
No. I mean, I think we kind of expect you to do that. No, if that actually happens, if Spurs lose away to Forest, and as much as they're on a good roll, I just don't. I just can't see a scenario where we should be fearing a team with Elanga on the wing and Chris Wood up front. I'm sorry.
But Gary, this is where I have a real problem with that. Janet H 4-3 to Spurs. My ticker couldn't take that.
Well, I'd had a few drinks.
I couldn't take that. This is where I agree with you, Gary.
Bombshell.
This is why I can't agree with you, Gary. I watched again. I'm fortunate enough to go to work and watch these games for a living. I watched Forest yesterday. They are square pegs, square holes, whatever you want to call it, round pegs, round holes. They've just bought players. Yes, a lot of them, but that, like you said, Ollie, that was 2 years ago. They have bought players to fit the system, and they may be injury-free, but they're just doing the right thing. We are so far from, because of the injuries as well, we are so far from doing the right thing. I think we're coming up against a team in such good form that I don't care who the personnel are, because I think if you're well coached, it goes a long, long way.
Sure.
And I don't think we're being well coached at the moment. And I think we've got massive problems. That's why I think we'll lose to Forest, because I just think they're in a moment and we're so out of a moment. I think we'll beat Wolves. But I think at the moment, coming up against an organised Forest, no, I think they'll give us a real problem.
So what's our schedule? Are we doing before Forest, after Forest? Where are we at?
Yeah, okay. So we got Forest on Thursday, Boxing Day. With that, we would normally do a pod on Friday the 27th. Breaking news, there might not be a pod on Friday the 27th due to personnel. We are working on it. Jake Robson will shout at me and say, "Why aren't you doing a pod?" Well, where is Flaky Jake? You seen him? He did a great job, by the way. He did a grand old job with Jamie. So we will be back. Need to confirm with
He's
James.
very polished.
Jake, well, he's a reporter by trade.
A purporter.
A reporter by trade.
Yeah. In every way, he's
much better than me,
much.
but knows nothing about football.
He knows one or two things. But he's a much better presenter.
Can we get from the viewers today, who do you prefer, Jake or Johnny?
And thank you for listening to As I said, we might be back Friday. The plan is to be back, if not, to be back here Sunday after the Wolves game.
Do you think that there will come a point where Jake is there and you're there or here and we swap around?
Nobody wants to hear my opinions.
Don't do that to yourself. We love you, Johnny.
No.
Don't go begging. Don't go.
You want me to sit over there? You want to sit here?
Yeah, let's do it. Do it right now.
No, you don't want to hear my opinion.
Well, it's also, going back to the Ange thing, it's important to rotate. It's important to adapt the tactics for the people who are there. We had, you guys, I wasn't on the show on Friday, but you guys had to alter things according to Jake being the host rather than Johnny. In life, you always have to adapt. You can't take a one-size-fits-all attitude to everything.
Yeah. Stanley Lee, we love you, Johnny.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Stanley, mate. Checks in the post. All right, we're going to go. We're going to leave it there. We might see you Friday. If not, we'll hopefully see you Sunday. I'll put it on our Twitter at EOGTHFC when we'll be back. Gentlemen,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Have a good, happy holidays. Don't offend anyone. And we will see you on the other side of Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. From everyone at Spurs on today's performance.
And up the Spurs.